when you see a child exhibiting disruptive behavior, that child is probably thinking of something to do. So every child has their learning styles. They have the different ways you reach out to them. You have some children who are visual learners. So whatever you're saying, if they're not seeing it, you're talking to yourself. Yeah, we have children who are auditory learners. If they're seeing and they're not hearing, you're talking to yourself. We have children who are kinesthetic learners. So you can talk, you can see. If they're not doing, you're just wasting your time. So once you understand how every child learns, you can manage their behavior. But engagement at every point in time, children must always be engaged, or else they'll just throw tantrums. Of course, we know tantrums are part of children, but it can be managed if you know exactly what to do.
Awesome.
Yes. You know why? Because early years teachers, we hardly sit, right? So in class, you hardly sit, because you always have to be engaged with the children. There always has to be something. So we tell early years teachers, if the children are on the floor, you're on the floor. If they're hanging in the air, you're hanging in the air. If they're in the water, you're in the water. So you can imagine doing all of that for the 9-10 hours they're in school. Of course, you're going to be exhausted.
In the words of Alfred Donaldson, a play specialist internationally recognized for his ongoing research and use of play with children and animals, once said, "Children learn as they play. Most importantly, in play, children learn how to learn." Okay, that's a good one. Our next one is from Victor Maria Hugo, who was a French romantic writer and politician. He once said, "He who opens a school door closes a prison." Absolutely spot on. And we've actually heard this over time. The impact you have on how children develop should never be underestimated. By creating a safe and comfortable learning environment and encouraging your children to be curious about learning and not to be afraid to ask questions, you could inspire them to greater things and potentially help them to avoid some pitfalls in life. All right, so let's take our next quote, and this one is from Frederick Douglass, an American social reformer, abolitionist, orator, writer, and statesman. He once said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." Oh, wow. Our next quote is from Margaret Mead, an American cultural anthropologist. She once said, "Children must be taught how to think and not what to think." Don't you just love this quotes? Now let's see how all of this relates to what we will be discussing today. Very warm greetings and welcome to the conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Now there are few things in life that are as fulfilling as watching a child learn and develop. By the time children are ready to attend preschool, they have already had a variety of experiences and have developed in a number of ways. In order to use and build upon the learning that has already taken place in the home and its immediate environment, early years education should provide children with a rich variety of play activities and other experiences in a stimulating and challenging environment. So, at its most basic level, early child education, that's ECA, encompasses all forms of education, both formal and informal, provided to young children up to approximately 8 years of age. This education is fundamental to the development of a child and can significantly shape the later years of an individual's life. Now that is what we are discussing today. My guest on the show today is Uche Okoro. She is the head of school at the Learning Tree Creche and Academy. You don't want to miss this part of the show, especially for parents. Please join us again. If you just joined us, you're welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now, let's go down to business. Our guest on the show today is Uche Okoro. She is the head of school at the Learning Tree Creche and Academy. It's good to have you on the show, ma'am.
Thank you. Nice being here.
Same. Awesome. All right, now let's go straight to our discussion for today. I always love to break the ice with your choice of profession. Why teaching and not just teaching or lecturing adults? Why? I feel like teaching or talking to adults are kind of easier. They are easier to manage, really? But at least I feel like communicating with them, unlike children, you know what when you're talking to adults, they're easier to communicate with, unlike children. But then you decided to teach children who are, most times they just cry, and then you just don't know, you're lost on what exactly is the problem, where the problem is, and how to even start tackling the problem. So why did you choose this profession, and how has it been? How far so far? Okay, so why teaching? I think for me, it's the joy of just seeing children achieve milestones, right? So for adults, we already know that this is what you can do, this is where you are. But for children, just that joy, seeing them move from one stage to another, right? And the excitement they have actually just gives me joy. And it stems back to, I think I was 4. So I started working with children while I was a child myself. So while I was 4, when I was 4, I started working with children. I was around a lot of children doing things like Tales by Moonlight and Speak Out. Yeah, so I was in all those shows. So having been around children, I think I just grew up with the love of being around children. And so when it was time to choose a career path, it was quite easy. And it has been almost 20 years now. And yes, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. How's it been for you communicating with children? Like I said, they just start crying, and then you're like, oh, what do I do? Are you in pain or something? How do you okay, so when you're around children, of course, after a while, you would understand their language, you would understand their body movement, so you would know what they want, and then you would study them. So when you spend time with them, of course, you know what cry is for hunger, what cry is for sleep, what cry is for wet nappy or wet diapers, what cry is for outdoor. You just know. So it's something that you have to have worked with children for a period of time to actually understand. But it's not rocket science though, but it's something that you need to be in the system to understand how they work. That means you keep learning every day. Of course, you keep learning, because then again, a child who is crying for, and it's not hunger, it's not outdoor, it's not something else, it could be something else. So at that point in time, if all those needs are met and the child is still crying, you know, okay, there's something else. So that is another learning opportunity for you, because you know, okay, I've met all these needs. That means there's something new that is getting to this child, and I just need to discover what it is and meet that need. So how do you now decipher what exactly that need could be? Could be pain or something else? So if it's pain, of course, some children will point, or you just have to touch, you know, some parts of their body, and the way they react, you actually know if it's pain, you know. And with children, the good thing is with children, sometimes if they're in pain, they might have a slight temperature, which is not usual. So at least that can trace, or that can lead you to what could be causing that child to be cranky or uncomfortable. Yes. Let me ask you a personal question, and I hope you can answer that. I hope so too. How much do you make as a child educator? And that's one on the side. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath. Now, that's one on the side, because is it actually a lucrative industry to delve into, at least to try? Because like a lot of people would actually say, people would not stop giving birth, but the same way people will not stop eating. People might decide to not buy clothes, but then they will not stop eating or giving birth. So how's it been for you? Is it something that someone can actually delve into? Oh sure, why not? Absolutely, 100%. It's something that, because like you said, people will not stop giving birth.
You would always have children. I'm sure as we're talking now, we have babies being delivered all over the world. So of course, it's a very lucrative business. But then again, for me, I always say passion drives your customers to come, because we have schools and we have schools. So of course, you need to know what you're doing. You need to do the right thing to have customers, right? I've seen schools where they have a number of children and the children just trickle out, because of course somewhere along the line they've missed it. So the business is not so much about the money, but about passion, because it's when you know what you're doing, then you attract those that are seemingly on the same page with you. So absolutely, it's a lucrative business, although you don't get to see the profit immediately, because of course you need to spend money to get money. And so to set up a real standard school, you must spend money. But of course, it's something that you would make money from at the end of the day.
Okay, so but you did actually touch on how much you make,
Okay.
because you said it's about passion. So I want to know what's your account like?
Okay. Okay, so every school has its salary structure, right? And so it's based on your experience, based on your your experience and what you can deliver. So what I earn will be different from what another head of school earns, right? So it all, there's no, now in Nigeria, I know outside abroad there's a standard, right? So every teacher knows what they earn. So it's a regulated system, but in Nigeria it's basically based on the pocket of the school owner, really. And you hear a lot of people say based on your bargaining power. So if you're able to bargain, and negotiate properly, your salary would be something you smile home about. Yeah, awesome. But yeah, I think I'm smiling. So
interesting. All right, now let's go back to managing children.
Yes.
How do you how do you manage different children at the same time? This one is crying, the other one is screaming down her lungs, and then the other person is just banging the chairs and the tables, and one might even be too busy destroying the school properties, and like they say, silence is golden, but then when it comes to children or toddlers, silence is enough reason to be suspicious that something is happening. So now for children children will always be children, and you allow them to act their age. So for those kind of children, how do you manage them at the same time, even put them together?
Okay, so for early years, because I'm an early years expert, so for early years, 3 months to 5 years, we have a ratio for each class and for each age. And then I always tell people that engagement is very important for children. The only time you see a child being disruptive or showing disruptive behavior is when that child is not engaged. Children's minds work with being engaged.
So what does engage mean?
So that means they always have to be involved with something.
Okay.
Children are not, their minds are not, they are not fashioned to just be idle. Just like an adult, you can sit down and you're not thinking of anything. You just want to relax. You just want to go through your phones. Children's minds are not wired that way. They have to do something at every point in time. They have to be busy. And so when you see a child exhibiting disruptive behavior, that child is probably thinking of something to do. So every child has their learning styles. They have the different ways you reach out to them. You have some children who are visual learners. So whatever you're saying, if they're not seeing it, you're talking to yourself. Yeah, we have children who are auditory learners. If they're seeing and they're not hearing, you're talking to yourself. We have children who are kinesthetic learners. So you can talk, you can see. If they're not doing, you're just wasting your time. So once you understand how every child learns, you can manage their behavior. But engagement at every point in time, children must always be engaged, or else they'll just throw tantrums. Of course, we know tantrums are part of children, but it can be managed if you know exactly what to do.
Awesome.
Yes.
There's never been days when you just get home. I want to ask you directly, have there ever been days when you just get home and then you're completely drained and fagged out, like you just want to sleep and just sleep the night away, or just maybe wake up and not be in this
and not want to go
flesh
out
again?
Of course, every time. You know why? Because early years teachers, we hardly sit, right? So in class, you hardly sit because you always have to be engaged with the children. There always has to be something. So we tell early years teachers, if the children are on the floor, you're on the floor. If they're hanging in the air, you're hanging in the air.
There.
If they're in the water, you're in the water. So you can imagine doing all of that for the 9-10 hours they're in school. Of course, you're going to be exhausted, you know, but then again, you must always have activities so we have what we call free choice time, where you can observe what your children are doing, even if you're not part of it. So you can take a breather at that time and sit down and just watch what they're doing. But then again, you must have put a structure to enable that happen efficiently and effectively. So definitely you would be exhausted. Sometimes you just get home and you just lay on your bed and you probably wake up the next morning. Yeah, that's normal.
Okay, so then when you wake up the next morning, have you ever had the feeling that, man, I don't just want to wake up in this teaching flesh. I just want out. I'm done. Okay,
so for me, I say to people, I don't think I can do any other thing. Yeah, I think I've done this for so long that it's a part of me. So I don't think, and that's speaking for me, I don't think I would wake up any morning and say I don't want to be in the teaching skin anymore, or in the teaching environment. Yeah, maybe because I was a teacher for a lot of years before I became a head of school. So it's something that, of course, I will still be in the school system. I could say, okay, I'll step back, but I would still be in the classroom. So yeah, we have those days, but we snap out of them quickly.
Okay, awesome. Now, for you, 20 years and above, has it been worth it?
Of course. Every bit of it worth it. Like I said, the joy of seeing children. I have children now who are in secondary school, who are in university, children that I have taught. So sometimes when
I see them again,
and I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, I jokingly say I'm really getting old, you know. But then again, a few days ago I saw a set of twins I thought when they were 5, and now they're in just 3. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So that fulfillment, that joy to see that, okay, I actually saw these children. I actually was a part of their growth, was a part of their foundation. It gives me a lot of joy. So it has been worth it.
Now, I know that in our days, when a child messes up or misbehaves, the teacher will beat, spank, or shout at the child, or just ask the child to bring their parents so that they can complain. But these days, especially in
the British schools,
how dare you beat a child, especially when they pay so much for tuition fees, so or even chastise the child, especially when you don't even know if their parents are serving with the military, so that you don't just spend the rest of your day or night in one guard room. So how do you teach and at the same time inculcate discipline on these children?
Okay, so that is quite easy, I would say, because we have what we call, I don't like to use the word denials though, but there are things that children like to do, right? And children are not animals. They listen. Really, they listen. And so the school system is created in such a way that you have reinforcements that you use rather than beating the child. So for instance, we have children who love outdoor. Now, we know that outdoor is part of children's growth. We know that play is part of their growth. But you can have a child not go outdoor for 5 minutes or for 10 minutes. You're not denying that child outdoor. You're only just reducing the time. Now, and then you don't just tell the child you're not going out. The child needs to know why.
Okay.
So you're actually letting the child know, okay, you're not going to play with the Play-Doh today because you did this, right? So the child understands that there are consequences for what I do rather than beating the child. I know a lot of people say naughty corner. Put them in the naughty corner. But nowadays, children have gone wiser than naughty corner. They just go there and they're enjoying themselves. They find something else to do. Maybe they start painting the wall, or they start doing something that would lead them to another, another disciplinary act. So we have things that we can actually take away from them for a short time, but not their food, not their edibles, not their food, not the things that they need.
They love.
Or not the things that they need. You can actually take out the things that can be an option or can be an alternative, but not the things they need, like their food, their water, no. But you can actually tell them, okay, we're going outdoor now, but you're going to just sit down and reflect for like 5 minutes, right? And so that child knows, okay, if we're outdoor, because children know routines, they know what time, they might not know that it's 10 o'clock we go out, but they know what period. And so they're saying, okay, if I don't go out when everybody is going out, that means my playtime is going to be shorter.
Okay.
Right.
Even for the 3-year-old?
Of course, yes. 3-year-olds. Because like I said, they know routine. They already know what their structure is like. So they know. And then when you leave a child in class to probably play with the building blocks or do something else, and his classmates are outdoor, he knows that, okay, I've done something wrong. That's why I'm not out at this time. So there are different behavior modification techniques or activities that we can use for their age. And then again, we ensure that we put the consequences when it has happened. So we don't come tomorrow and say, oh, remember yesterday you scattered. No, they can't, their brains can't connect that. So as it's happening, you're sorting out the disruptive behavior and you're moving on. Yes.
Now, talking about taking a cue from where you just landed, now, we remember that while growing up, you don't talk to your parents. There's some things that you don't tell especially your mom, that you got some talks from a guy or something like that, and immediately they will just beat you or they spank you. But now you have people who have, there's this argument, people saying that you don't beat a child, you don't spank a child, you don't shout at a child because it affects their psyche. And that's what we hear today. But do you actually think that all of those beatings we got those years, those shoutings, didn't they have a way of molding us?
No, I will tell you, they did. They did have a way of molding us. My mom will beat you by default. You know,
that's my mom.
You know, but they did have a way. But then again, every generation is different. Okay. Now, people like to say the children we have now are computer-age children. Do you understand? So there's always, and for me, at every point in time, there's always a better way to do things, right? So let's try a better way than beating the child. Some children have become very immune to beating. You beat them and in the next 5 minutes, they're doing the same thing. So are you going to keep hitting that child? No. The child now becomes very, very stern and very tough, that, you know, he begins to even react to other people like that, because by default, he just believes the best way to sort a problem out is by beating. And so you're not even teaching that child the right thing to do. You know, but children listen. So we have things like telling them it's a no, no, no. You know, and then you hear them say it, it's a no, no, no. They know, they listen. So rather than the first action is to hit, because again, you're teaching that child to hit. And then that's how we have bullies. This is anti-bullying week. So yeah, that's how we have bullies as well. So it's what children, it's like they're like sponges. What you give them is what they take. So if you're that teacher or that parent who your first line of action is to hit, you're only telling that child that's the best way to solve this problem. For us, it didn't work. Maybe by some atom of luck, it didn't work. But we still have some of us that still react that way. So really, that's not the best way.
Okay, since we're talking about bullying, and then in schools you have different children. So how do you, as the head of teacher, of school rather, how do you actually deal with bully in the school?
So first of all, we reiterate to the children, don't be a bully, be a buddy. You know, these are things you shouldn't say to your friends. You shouldn't make your friends feel bad. And then the school system is a home and school partnership. So, of course, we need to let the parents know that, okay, your child uses these words, or your child always hits a child. Maybe a child takes his pencil and the first thing he does is to hit. And, of course, if we know in the school system we don't have that, we have to trace it back home to say, okay, it might not happen at home, but children watch TV. Do you understand? They go to other people's houses for sleepovers. There has to be somewhere where we have to trace it somewhere. And then, of course, we let the parents know that.
And you do that for all the children?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure. It's school business is something that once you've made up your mind to do it, you have to do it and do it right. Okay. Because again, if you're not watching over one child, that child is doing something to another person's child, and you don't want that situation. So of course we invite the parents in and let them know, okay, your child has been exhibiting this behavior. It doesn't happen in school because of course we reiterate no bullying. So we trace it back, and of course we speak to the child, of course letting the child know the dangers of what you're doing.
That means they already understand the meaning of bullying.
They do. So we have things like circle time every day. So our circle time is to just reiterate manners, social skills, sharing, taking turns, all those things. So we let the children know. And the circle time happens from when they're 3 months. So it's something that they get used to hearing.
All right. So at what stage or degree is best for early child education? At what stage is it advisable for parents to bring out their children?
Okay, so that's a very tricky question because it's based on their choice. Now, the EYFS has provision for 3 months to 5 years. So that's saying that you can bring your child in when they're 3 months. You can bring your child in when they're 2 years. You can bring your child in when they're 3. It all depends on your preference. So you have some parents who are working parents and who need to go back to work after maternity. They bring their children earlier. And you have some who probably work from home. They bring their children at 2. So I would say whatever works for you. The child will still learn at whatever point you bring the child. As long as it's an earlier setting, 3 months to 5 years, the child will still learn. Yeah.
A lot of people have actually argued and talked down on parents, especially moms, busy moms, or the working moms who send their children to any kind of outside the home teaching or learning, and then they just badmouth them, asking them, why can't you take care of your own child? What are you doing? So why do you always have, and then they ask, why do you have to ship your children away to some kind of strangers to cater to them? So tell us the importance of early child education. That's one on the side, and then secondly, especially for a toddler, what exactly do you teach in these schools? What are the learning process that you put these children or toddlers into?
Okay, so the first question now, for those people saying why are parents shipping their children, it's really not about shipping your child, right? It's about, first of all, social skills. Children, so that brings me to what we teach them. Now, there are milestones for every child, and they're professionals. I'm a mother, but if I wasn't a teacher, probably there are things I wouldn't know my child should achieve at every age. Right? Because it's not something I go to read. It's not something I study. It's not something I do every day. But teachers are professionals. They go through trainings. They go through seminars, conferences that show them how to meet these children's needs. So I'll give you an example. One of the milestones that a child between the ages of 6 months should achieve is eye contact, right? So we have some adults who can't give eye contact. It's not because anything is wrong with them. It's just because the foundation probably wasn't right. So children need to have eye contact. Children need to be able to move to sound, so babies, when there's a sound, the door opens or there's something falls, they need to move to that sound. They need to react to that sound. Now, if I wasn't a teacher, I would probably see it as, it's normal. If my child didn't move, it's fine. So it's not just about shipping your children. It's those milestones that you might probably, if you're a mother and you can read about them, because we have what we call development matters. It's an early years document that has all the milestones and everything a child must achieve from age 0 to 5 years. So if you're a working mom, or if you're a mom that has the time to go through that entire document to know what your child should achieve, that's fine. Now, you see some children who have speech delays. It's not because there's something wrong, but they need to communicate. So if you're for instance, they're an only child, right, and you're just the mom, you might not really get to say so much. But children need to be, now in school, they learn communication skills, they learn social skills, they learn to share, they learn to take turns, they just learn to be around other children. They learn to accommodate, right? So that's why they're in school, because of course the resources that are in school are not personal. So of course, I need to share with you. You need to share with me. But my resources at home are mine. I don't need to share with anybody. And so that's why you see some children or some adults now they like their space. I just like to be on my own, right? So
I just like my privacy.
Exactly. So 3 months to 5 years is that foundational stage where children must get a lot of things. That's why you see some children in year 1, in year 2, they're struggling, especially even with holding the pencil. It's in that foundational stage children learn to hold their pencil correctly.
Oh, wow.
It's in that foundational stage. They build their fine motor skills and their gross motor skills. So when you see a child trying to climb the stairs and can't climb on both feet, is climbing one, that's a milestone that hasn't been met. Right, so if the child is in my house and we're climbing the stairs, climb the stairs whichever way you want. If I'm not a teacher, I wouldn't know that you put one foot first and the next one. You don't come down with both feet. Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So these are things that the school environment will help the child achieve.
We actually due for a break, but before we go on that break,
Yes,
because
please.
you talked about the speech, children who have speech deficiency or something, I know quite a lot of children have seen that at their age, they're supposed to be talking very well, but they're not. So how does the school help such children?
Okay, so it's two things. It's either that child is has a developmental challenge or developmental delay or developmental which children have, or that child has not been exposed to a lot of communication. So all we need to do is observe that child. Okay, does that child have, if that child has 1 or 2 words, then we know the problem is not speech. The problem is just the fact that that is the bank, those are the words in his bank of vocabulary. So we need to build them. But if the child doesn't have words at all, then we can take it further to tell the parent, okay, can we actually see a specialist? Can we know if there's something else? But if that child has 1 or 2 words, the child says mommy and says daddy, you know that that child has words. It's just to fill that child's bank with more
Other
words.
words. Awesome. Let's go on a quick break and we will continue this conversation with Uche Okoro. I'm sure you must have learned a lot, but then there's still more, clearly. I'll see you shortly. Don't move a muscle. The benefits of early childhood education. We'd like you to talk to them.
Okay, so dear fathers, mothers, grandparents, children learn at their own pace, right? Children learn in their own style. So you need to understand the importance of meeting every child at the point of their needs. I know I've had a lot of parents say, oh, my 3-year-old child needs to write 1 to 100. And the first question I ask is, can they apply it? Right, so for children, you need to teach them at every point in time what they should apply. Now, that's what early childhood education does for you. It lets you know, or lets your child know what they should learn per time. Right, because if you want to be a pure African or Nigerian parent, why is my 3-year-old not writing 1 to 200? My sister's son is writing 1 to 200. Why is mine? Now, you need to understand that there's a skill for number writing. There's a skill for letter sounds. There's a skill for everything children learn, and that's why we have the 7 learning areas in the EYFS, because all these things have skills.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you've actually missed out on a whole lot, but then you can still join in the conversation. Our guest on the show today is Uche Okoro. She is the head of schools at the Learning Tree Creche and Academy. All right, so before we went on that break, we've actually talked about quite a lot of things. Now, let's talk about sex education. At what age is it preferable, or is it advisable to start teaching your children, both from the house and the schools, on sex?
Okay, so I would say from 2. Why? Because they can identify parts of their body. Now, you don't have to go so deep into the whole sex talk, of course, but you can let them know the places that is a no-no.
So do you have to call the names?
Oh yes, you need to let children know the names. So we teach them to know the names. We don't teach them, oh, my back bum bum, my front bum bum. No, we don't do all of that. Because of course, if they need to report an abuse, what name are they going to use? They don't even know. So as much as possible, we try not to confuse children. Because imagine you tell a child, let them not touch your back bum bum, right? And then the child says, vagina. So how do you relate that? The child might not be able to, comprehend that. So we let them know their names. They are not bad names. It's just the African culture that makes it seem like the vagina and the penis are bad. They're not bad words.
Sacred, so you shouldn't call
Those
them.
are the names of the parts of the body.
Okay.
Right, so it's like teaching the child my eyes, my nose, my mouth, my breast, my legs, my toes, my fingers. Of course, you let them know the names, and so you let them know no one is allowed to touch. You can, and with children, they learn a lot with songs. So you can actually get songs that have to do with my private and my private. Don't touch. If anybody tries to touch you, scream. You know, we have songs like that. So children are aware of that, and then as they grow, you now begin to, you know, go deep into it. But at first, at that age, you let them know no one is allowed to touch. You know, this place, that place, no one is allowed to touch.
I've actually heard somebody say, a teacher tell the child, that's your pee-pee and that's your wee-wee. Is that right?
No, that's not right.
Okay.
That's not right. There's no pee-pee, there's no wee-wee. Use the names.
Okay.
Use the names for them. Right.
All right. So for you, are there also okay, I'm going to ask you two questions again, and I'd like to take them in one breath. Now, what are the curriculums that you use? Is it just the British or the British and English? And then also, do you also have infusion of the indigenous languages to your curriculum?
Okay, so we do at the learning tree, we do the pure AYFS. That's the British curriculum. We don't infuse the Nigerian or American. We don't also infuse Nigerian language, but we work with themes. So we do thematic teaching, and so in our themes, the children are exposed to some of these things. For instance, a class that is exploring celebrations, you're going to look at celebrations around the world. So you look at celebration in Nigeria, in the East, in the West, in the North, right, in the South, the Agungu Festival, the New Yam Festival. Those are celebrations that you can infuse because they're exploring celebrations around the world. But we don't teach Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, except they're exploring a theme that has to bring that in. Then they can be exposed to that. But of course, we do French.
So now, what are the principles that you ride on when caring for the children? And like they say, for some people, they say children always come first, regardless. And then others will say every situation is a learning curve or a learning opportunity. So what's it for you?
So for me, it's 50-50. Yeah, the children come first, but also the staff have to be in sync. So it's 50% the children, 50%. Why do I say that? The children are being catered for by the staff. So if the staff is not in the right frame of mind, you can't give what you don't have. So the success of the children actually lies in the staff. Yes, exactly.
All right, so I'm aware that there are classroom expectations or expectation posters using, I actually saw one that says I'm using the 5 Ps, and it actually talks about being polite, being prepared, being prompt, being productive, being patient. Now, are there important or golden classroom rules that you keep or that you stick to that you would like to share with us?
So the first one is the 5 magic words. Please, excuse me, thank you, sorry, and please excuse me, sorry, thank you. And the last one's pardon, sorry, I had to sing it. Yeah, so there are 5 magic words. And for me, those 5, or for us rather, those 5 magic words actually encompass everything that involves working with children and just teaching them. They need to know manners, how to say please, how to say thank you, how to say excuse me, how to say sorry. A lot of people don't know how to say sorry, even adults. And a lot of people know how to say pardon me. You see some children, adults are talking and they just bump into your conversation. So those 5 magic words are our personal 5 magic words. Of course, except for our class rules, which everybody shares with their class at the beginning of every school year. So raise your hand, be nice, no bullying zone, use your mouth, not your hands, in the sense that use your mouth to ask, not your hand to beat, things like that. Yeah. So every class has their class rules that work with them, but we also ensure that the children work from 3 years actually give you those class rules. So it's not class rules the teacher just, it's something you work together with the class. Children. Exactly.
Oh, okay. Now, because you talked about learning to say pardon me, for when we're growing up, you just come and talk to your parents when you see them discussing, and then the next thing you just get a slap. Like, can't you see we are talking? So how do you do it now? How do you teach
Okay,
these
so
children?
like I said earlier, we have circle time. So our circle time is when we reiterate all those things, the expectations we want. So we let children know. And then for children, we do a lot of role play. So rather than just telling them, oh, say excuse me, or say pardon me, so we do role play. Either two children act out, or two adults act out, and then you show them the scenario so they know when to apply it. Because for children, you need to always connect the abstract with the concrete. So you're not just telling them, always say excuse me, and then if I'm a child in your class, I'm wondering, when do I have to say
excuse me?
Exactly. So we role play it, so you see the scenario and you know exactly when to apply it.
Awesome.
And then if you realize that a child still has, some challenges, you keep reminding them. So if a child comes to you when you're talking with someone, you just tell the child, oh, what do we say? I'm talking. And then the child goes, oh, excuse me.
Awesome. All right, now, so how do you make their classroom conducive and safe enough, like what these children have in their various homes? Like, since they say the school is home away from home, so how do you make it conducive enough for them?
Okay, so one of the principles of early years foundation stage, the EYFS, is to have an enabling environment, and that is in terms of both resources and human beings. So for resources, we ensure that they have everything they need for learning. So it could be soft toys, it could be Play-Doh, it could be building blocks, it could be cubes, it could be whatever it is that they need to play. And then we take away, of course, those resources are kept at their reach. So they're not resources that are kept very high that they can't get to. They need to be, they're very accessible. So the children can easily work with them, except the sharp ones, right? Except the sharp objects. But you rarely find sharp objects in our classrooms because, of course, we have the plastic scissors, we have the kids' scissors, the children's scissors. So those resources are what the children can use. But of course, the adult scissors and the rest of them are kept where the children's hands can get to. So the enabling environment actually gives the children the opportunity to explore with as many resources as possible at every point in time. Because like I said, for children, you have to link abstract with concrete. So if you're doing numbers, they have to see it, they have to feel it, they have to do it. If you're doing letters, they have to see, they have to feel, they have to do. So at every point in time, especially at the learning tree, we have resources always.
So now for children who are, I'm trying to find the right word, but let's say children who are very stubborn, they're very heady. You've tried all that you can and then it's just not working. How do you deal with such children?
There's always a way to get to that child.
Oh, really?
There's always a way. There's always a way. I get what you're saying, but there's always a way to get to that child. No child is irredeemable. I'm to use that word, yes. There's always, all you need to do, and that's why I keep telling people, to be a teacher is a calling. You have to be called to do it. That's the only way you can be patient enough to know what that child, how do I get to that child? So there's always a way to get to that child. That's why you see sometimes some children move from one class to another. And in this class, you hear them say, oh, that boy was so tough. He's coming to your class. I pity you. And then he goes to that class and he's fantastic. And everybody is wondering, what did she do? Yeah. All she just knew, he or she just knew how to get to that child. That's all.
All right. So what are the different careers that you could have in early child education, especially for those who would like to go into that area?
Okay, so you mean like in teaching?
Yes, especially for teaching.
You could. So we have teachers, we have teaching assistants, we have caregivers, we have librarians, we have. Of course, we have the school nurse or the doctor. So any of this, we have the accountant or the bursar, we have the facility manager. So if you think that you actually would love to be in a school system, but you didn't teach, there's something else you can actually do. You can be a chef, Maybe you know how to cook, you can actually cook for the school. Maybe you studied accountancy, you can actually apply to be an accountant. Maybe you can actually be a caregiver, that's like a nanny. You can actually be a cleaner as well. So there are lots of career opportunities in the school system that is not in the classroom.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So you don't always have to be the teacher or the head of school.
Not at all.
Right.
At all. Even admin, you can actually be an administrator. Yeah. Okay. Even if you don't want to be in the class, you can be an administrator. Yes.
Now, you've always talked about passion. You've always hinted on passion. Now, speaking of passion, a lot of people just stumble at the job because they didn't get what they wanted. And then for some others, they just got the job dropped on their lap a la carte. So, and then there's no passion for the profession. Everyone cannot be like you, who has got the energy, who has got the love and the work and the vibe and the passion that you add to it. So, and then you also try to develop yourself at it, and then still do, because you believe that you've accepted this profession, that it is a calling for you, and that you've accepted that it's a lifetime calling and not a 1 to 5 years profession. So for those ones who are at that bottom rung of the pile, who just come in to stumble at the job, they just believe that it is condition that made Creche to bend. So how do you then explain to these people, this set of people, and make them understand that we just entrust the critical and valuable aspect of our nation, that's the children, to them? How do you explain to them?
Okay, so there are two things, right? There are people who stumble over it and begin to enjoy it. Now, there are people who stumble over it and are frustrated. Now, those who stumble over it and are frustrated, by and large, they would leave. They would. That's why you see some of them now they open salons, they start to sell fabric, they start to make hair, they start to do something. That's because they tried that part and it didn't work. It's fine. It's okay for them to do what they love to do. And then you see some people who stumbled over it because, of course, maybe they were done with NYSC, there was no work, and someone said, oh, I know a friend who is running a school, would you like to work? And they come in and they enjoy it. Now, when they enjoy it, of course, because they enjoy it, they want to know more. Now, I've seen teachers who never planned to be teachers, but they just stumbled over it. But now they've done a lot of courses, they've attended a lot of trainings, they keep developing themselves every time, and they're getting better at it. So it's two things. You either get frustrated and leave, or you see it as something, a challenge, something that you might not be called from the beginning, but you can be called in the middle, because you've gotten into it and you say, oh, I really like this. It's something I think I can do, and you just ensure that you get better at it.
So what kind of trainings do you need to go through? What kind of developments?
Okay, so in Nigeria, we have the PGD, that's Postgraduate Diploma in Education. We have, there are different courses you can do, online courses, early childhood education courses that you can do, and you just equip yourself. So it's just, you can actually go online. And so for Nigeria, we don't really, except for the PGD, unlike the UK that have the QTS, that's Qualified Teacher Status, there are things that you need to do to be a qualified teacher. So in Nigeria for now, we have basically the PGD, the NTI, National Teachers Institute, that you have to go through, but then again, I tell people that should not be the stop, that should not be your bus stop, right? You should actually go online, look for other courses that you can do. If you want to do a master's, you can do a master's in early childhood education or in education or something, but you should actually keep developing yourself, because the truth is, the system keeps evolving. It keeps, new things keep coming up. And if you don't, if you're not on that page, you're left behind. So even when you go for interviews, they ask you questions of things that are happening now. And you're still behind. So it's all an individual decision to actually move forward.
Okay, now so I have two questions I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Now, with regards to recruitment, how do you recruit your teachers? Because I hear some people say that I just left school last year and now I'm a teacher. So at what stage do you start your recruitment? And then when you talk about, you talked about moving on, you must always be, like, it's a moving train. You must always be in that moving train. So COVID-19 came and then caused a lot of disruptions globally, and then people had to learn to use go digital, virtual meeting and all. So how have you been able to infuse your children, even from that 3 years, 2 years? How have you been able to put them through and then still make sure that they're still moving?
Okay, so during the COVID, I think it was surprising for us at the Learning Tree, but we had our children from 3 years actually go virtual. Yeah, and it wasn't easy, I would say, because children, their attention span is very short. So, but we found a way to record live sessions and, you know, to do pre-recorded videos and to just upload videos for them that are entertaining, but of course are channeled to their learning. So I remember during the COVID, I had an Instagram live, and I actually was pleading with teachers to say, you know what, this has taught us that we shouldn't just be in one place. We shouldn't be comfortable in where we are. We should move out of our comfort zone, because COVID actually taught us to do that. And I want to believe that a lot of teachers have gone ahead to make sure that they're several steps ahead in case anything happens. And then for the recruitment, of course, you need to have experience, because we're working with younger children. You need to have experience. I know you mentioned at the start of the of this that some children they're crying for this, they're crying for that. So you need to have experience.
So it starts with experience, not the qualification.
No. It starts with experience. Because then again, I said to a few of my colleagues some time back, and I said, now, because of the fact that online, there are a lot of free courses now. There are a lot of affordable courses. So people just do courses and have certificates. And so they come for an interview and their CVs are loaded with certificates of different courses. Now, can they apply all those things? So I need to be able to see that you have experience. If you're telling me that you're a handwriting, you did a training on handwriting. Okay, so how do you teach children? Handwriting has rules. Would you be able to tell me the rules? Children need to sit up. That's a rule for handwriting, right? They can't slouch. They need to sit up. Their books need to be put straight. For little children, there has to be finger spacing. If you're able to tell me all of that and to give me instances of how you've used it and it has worked, I know that you're the right person you're the right fit for the job. But if you're just beating around the bush, and I tell people, I think it's grace. I can actually sit with you in 5 minutes and know if you know what you're doing as a teacher. I just need 5-10 minutes and I know if you know what you're doing. So I think that has helped me a lot in recruiting the right people. So I would say with pride, at the Learning Tree, we have the right fit.
Okay. So that what are the most must-have for every childhood educator? What are those?
The first thing is patience.
Okay.
Patience and love for children. I just think you can't have more than that, really. Once you're patient and you love children, every other thing will follow. But you must be patient and you must have a love for children. That's what will drive you to even say, and because it's the love, the patience, the passion that would make a teacher go home and you're thinking of, what are my children going to do tomorrow? Right? You're just thinking, you know, and I have some colleagues who they will tell me their husbands say, we dream, we eat, we sleep, school. Because every time you come back, you're telling one story of what John did today. John really didn't like school today. What am I going to do for John to enjoy school tomorrow? I need to come up with more, you know, with more activities to get my children engaged tomorrow. That's a teacher that is passionate, that loves what she's doing and is patient. You don't give up, because a patient teacher will not give up on a child if the child can't write 1 to 5 today. You won't give up.
So since we're talking about parents, so how do you now bring the parents? What's the collaboration with?
Okay, so like I'm using the Learning Tree because of course that's where I work. So we have what we call coffee morning or parents workshop. So of course we always need to put the parents, we need to put them abreast with what is going on. This is where we are. We also give them basically tips on how you can support your children at home if they have home fun or they have a project there to do, or if they're just having challenges with, because most times you see children say, what Miss Uche said is right. They don't want to listen to their parents because they feel what their teacher. So what we do is we let the parents know the different ways in which we tackle any activity.
Okay.
So when you're trying to use yours as a parent, you will remember, oh, Miss Uche said I can actually use counters, because that's what the child understands. So it's a partnership. It's a strong partnership. Whatever information we have, we give to the parents so they know how to support their children. And then if we notice that there's something going wrong with a child, we let the parents know as well. And then we speak and know the next step to take. So it's a full-time partnership.
All right, even as we begin to round up, kindly speak to that African mom or that African father, grandparent or guardian who's out there watching us right now, who are still being African or even being sticking to their Nigerian roots. The benefits of early childhood education. We'd like you to talk to them.
Okay, so dear fathers, mothers, grandparents, children learn at their own pace, right? Children learn in their own style. So you need to understand the importance of meeting every child at the point of their needs. I know I've had a lot of parents say, oh, my 3-year-old child needs to write 1 to 100. And the first question I ask is, can they apply it? Right, so for children, you need to teach them at every point in time what they should apply. Now, that's what early childhood education does for you. Okay. It lets you know, or lets your child know what they should learn per time. Right, because if you want to be a pure African or Nigerian parent, why is my 3-year-old not writing 1 to 200? My sister's son is writing 1 to 200. Why is mine? Now, you need to understand that there's a skill for number writing. Okay. There's a skill for letter sounds. There's a skill for everything children learn. And that's why we have the 7 learning areas in the EYFS, because all these things have skills. And so if you don't understand how to meet that child, you're putting that child under pressure, putting the teacher under pressure, putting yourself under pressure. So these are the things that early childhood education does for the children. It just exposes them to those skills and everything they should learn per time. And trust me, they would always catch up. They won't struggle. Now, the good thing is when they have the right foundation in early years, they can't struggle in primary. With spelling, with writing, with comprehension, they can't struggle.
So that's why you have parents who say, oh, my child is just flying high.
Exactly.
Because it started
because we do comprehensive skills, we do spelling, we do numbers, we do additions, we do all those things. We do telling the time, all those things, colors, shapes, we do all of that. Role play, we do all of that. So, of course, when your child gets to year 1, he's just going to show off. This is what I know. This is what I've learned. So when you just take a child and put the child in year 1, now even abroad where they don't start school till like 5, but they still have the daycare. And when they go there, they expose them to building of their fine motor skills, their gross motor skills, reading, spelling, and all those things. Even if they do it in the fun way, but of course they still expose the children to those things.
It's been a wonderful time having this conversation. Like we should just go on and on and on. Thank you so much, Uche Okoro.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
All right, viewers, I'm sure you must have been rightly educated, entertained, and informed. We have been chatting with Uche Okoro. She is the head of school at the Learning Tree Creche and Academy. It's been a wonderful time here on The Conversation. Keep watching The Conversation, because you never know who my next guest will be and what my next topic will be all about. Till I come your way again from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. God bless Nigeria.